This is the story of Kaede Honjo, a young girl who invests all her funds into stocks, into defense stats, and enjoys exponential growth. It all begins one day when her professional gamer friend named Risa practically peer pressures her into playing a popular and highly esteemed MMORPG game called New World Online. Wonder where they got that from. Kaede Honjo gives in and is ready to check out the game, but since her friend Risa is busy with studying, Kaede would have to venture into the world of virtual reality gaming all on her own. Note that she has no prior gaming experience whatsoever, which leads her to be extra cautious with her approach. Once inside the game, Kaede chooses Maple as her username, and that's what we will be calling her from here on out. Same with her friend Risa, whose username is Sally. Though when it comes to putting her points into a skill, Maple starts by equipping herself with a shield-wielding avatar. And since she doesn't know any better, and was trying to be careful, she decides to put all of her points into defense. Literally everything. Naturally, this nerfed her speed and offensive power, but that hardly matters considering the Matthew effect, basically the effect of accumulated advantage. Anyway, since she's unreasonably slow, random cute monsters see her as an easy prey and decide to attack. The first time it happens, Maple just stands there for an entire hour getting attacked without experiencing any damage, until the cute bunny monster practically exhausted himself to its death. This raises her stats, and by repeatedly doing this, she begins to garner more new defense-related abilities, such as poison resistance, as well as skill points, which she also continues to invest into her defense. By this point, it's already extremely obvious that Maple has been reading Sun Tzu. If you know your enemy and yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. She literally just sleeps while wandering monsters attack her, and ultimately die of exhaustion, hence letting her level up in her sleep. Later, she meets another shield user named Kuromu. After seeing his shield, she becomes excited and wonders where she can upgrade her equipment. Kuromu takes her to a beautiful crafter named Iz, but since great things cost money and Maple doesn't have much, she's told to go explore a certain dungeon. Kuromu gives her some useful potions. Maple takes the advice and literally decides to do just that. She goes to a dungeon and encounters the powerful three-headed poison dragon. The dragon was able to melt her shield and her armor, and could even hurt her a little. But by repeatedly using those potions and tanking that poison, Maple was able to evolve her poison resistance into poison immunity. From there on out, she basically bites the dragon into submission, because apparently her teeth did more damage to the dragon than her fists. Once she defeats the humongous poison dragon, she levels up significantly, and also unlocks a unique armor and shield. But this was just the beginning of Maple's legendary defense. Following this, she joins a Battle Royale event, where, as the name implies, it's the survival of the fittest. Well, many players see Maple as an easy target, and decide to attack her. But even among those thousands of players, she stood tall, and simply let them destroy themselves by getting closer to her shield. In total, she defeated 2,028 players. Maple uses a few new abilities and ends up in third place despite being an absolute noob. At school, Maple shares her extraordinary progress with her gamer friend Sally. Sally's impressed and suggests her evasion specialization in addition to Maple's defense, to further amplify each other's abilities. She enters the game together with Maple and they embark on a short journey to a cave in order to find some valuable material for a new shield. Soon enough, Sally finds an underwater cave, and this is where Sally gets her upgrades. The cave was hidden behind a locked door, so the two go there every day and hoard up some valuable materials. This also allowed Sally to greatly improve her underwater skills, which she then used to take care of the cave boss, and just like Maple, she was able to get her own special equipment. Then while they're enjoying some quality rest at a cafe, Maple and Sally get the news of the second event from two players named Dread and Drag. They might seem like background characters, but one of them is actually ranked second in the Battle Royale, where Maple was ranked third. He was definitely surprised by how a beginner like Maple managed to rank third. Following this encounter, Maple and Sally go for a light quest in the forest. Before long, they entered an abandoned haunted place. Sally is somewhat scared because all the ghosts and stuff, but after evading those ghosts, the two find a helpless man tied to a chair and let him finally pass on to the afterlife. Then they come across a majestic hidden beach and enjoy a beautiful sunset. Next day, they take on a deer monster, which has been able to apparently knock out Maple, but Sally takes it out. This then leads to Maple getting a new shield called Snow White. That beautiful crafter named Iz had prepared this shield on her request. Like always, they have a nice meal together, and then Sally takes Maple to another tournament. This time it's party-based, and so Maple and Sally are ready to take on the second event. This event is basically field exploration with your party members. You get points by raiding dungeons, collecting reward drops and chests, finding hidden places, and even fighting against other players. That's right, it's like a real treasure hunt. The reward is 300 silver medals and 10 gold medals. Maple and Sally take on this event. They find and raid a hidden dungeon from the get-go, and manage to earn several medals. They then head towards the mountains, where they encounter Kuromu and his party. Usually this would have resulted in a PvP match, but since Maple doesn't want to fight Kuromu, both parties go their own way. Soon enough, they come across a menacing ice bird boss called Silverwing. If you've seen Pokemon, this bird boss looks a lot like Articuno. The bird lives up to its reputation and manages to overpower even Maple's defenses. But by teamwork and ascending past their previous levels, Maple and Sally barely managed to defeat Silverwing. It was a close call, but surviving this allowed Maple's defenses to become even stronger. They get a lot of medals and crafting materials for this, and also find a couple of cute monster eggs in the bird's boss den. They take care of the eggs until a few hours later when they hatch into two adorable companions. One's like a turtle, the other's like a fox. They name them Syrup and Oboro. But following this, the girls have their first encounter with a player who wants to challenge them. It's a swordsman named Kasumi. Sally fights against Kasumi while Maple's speed holds her back, but before the fight could go anywhere, they get sucked into an underground dungeon. Not only that, a curse is also placed upon them. Their lives are interconnected. If either one of them dies, all three of them will die. There are some absurdly unbeatable snail monsters which they can't help but try to avoid and run away from, but by working together, they manage to get out of the dungeon with their lives intact. Of course, the rewards are also shared equally. After Kasumi, Maple and Sally meet another interesting player named Kanade. She tells them about an underwater squid boss. Maple trolls everyone by poisoning the entire sea, which technically does kill the boss, but the game administrators are taken aback. Maple is more of a boss than the boss itself. Sally and Maple engage in a few more player vs player combats to earn more medals until the event finally ends. They both have grown significantly. Maple even manages to turn Syrup into a mobile fortress by using one of those skills she learned in the event. And since Syrup can fly, transports become very easy. Now, because of how well they did in the event, Maple and Sally earn the right to get themselves their very own guild house. They get it in the forest and name it the Maple Tree. And to increase their ranks, they also recruit worthy allies such as Kasumi, Kanade, Kuromu, and of course, Iz. They work together and clear a quest, though they still need more members for an upcoming event. This is where two cute players named Yui and Mei come in. Contrary to what Maple did, they had decided to put all their points into strength stats. They work together with Maple to gain new skills by raiding dungeons. It's a terrific combination. Two absurdly strong newbies and then a player who has an incomprehensibly strong defense. Meanwhile, the other members also gain their respective rise in power. Kuromu even manages to clear a hidden dungeon and earns a new set of equipment. The folks at Maple Tree were all growing stronger. Later, Maple encounters a mom who is desperately seeking a way to cure her daughter. She helps them get the medicine by defeating monsters, and hence in turns gains a skill called Loving Sacrifice. This allows for a way to fortify their guild's defenses, considering how Maple can quite literally share her defense with her guild members. She also gets a new armor made by Iz. When she's using this skill, Maple looks like an angel. The other guilds couldn't help but notice the sudden surge of Maple Tree. Soon enough, it's time for the third event. It's an event that involves cows. Basically, the guilds have to defeat mobs of cows and collect cowbells. It sounds weird, but it's a cute nod to Diablo. The greater the number of cowbells you collect, the greater the rewards and rank for both the player and the guild. Furthermore, the players who have wool-based clothing have an advantage because then the defeated cows are more likely to drop the cowbells. The event begins and Maple comes across a boss in a familiar church. She remembers it from the time she obtained the Loving Sacrifice skill. Things go a little wrong when she's swallowed by this boss, but considering how it's Maple, she just starts eating the boss from the inside and defeats it. This victory unlocks new skills such as the Oozing Chaos ability, which allows her to transform into a giant monster. She really is becoming an actual boss. Then the guild members enter the level 3. Maple ends up getting separated from the others, and right in the Graveyard of Dreams, she comes face to face with a boss. The fight takes place and the boss goes berserk, but Maple uses her newly found acquired Machine God skill to slay it. The cow hunting event ends, and the maple tree doesn't even rank in the top 10 guilds, but they still receive the stuffed cow head for their efforts, which is the most valuable reward a guild could have obtained in this event. The third event was indeed weird, but it was also sort of a prelude to what's coming next. We're talking about the fourth event, which is essentially a direct competition between the most prominent guilds. There is the guild which was ranked first in the third event, named Order of the Holy Swords. Remember the Battle Royale where Maple ranked third? Well, this guild has the players who ranked first and second in that Battle Royale. We already know about Dread, who was ranked second, but there's also Pain, the guild master of this legendary guild, as well as the esteemed top player of this game. The guild that was ranked second in the previous event, named Kingdom of the Flame, including its guild master Me, 3 other members also ranked in the top 10 during that Battle Royale. While Maple Tree might not have done well in the third event, their popularity and prestige is already on par with these 2 guilds. Anyway, a girl named Frederica from the Order of the Holy Sword comes to scout at Maple Tree. Sally challenges her to a duel and makes her surrender through trickery. Looks like the skills she was using were fake. Frederica concedes defeat and shares some information about the Flame Emperor's guild. Finally, the guild competition begins. The guild that manages to obtain the highest number of orbs within the 5 days in game time would win. The other guilds were trying to get noticed, but everyone more or less knew that this competition would ultimately come down to the 3 most prominent guilds as of that moment. It's the Order of the Holy Swords, the Kingdom of the Flame Emperor, and then of course the Maple Tree Guild. There are a number of rules that the players have to follow. I won't bore you with the entire list, but let's just say they are quite complicated. Just know there's a 5 death penalty for each guild and a points-based system. Anyway, the competition begins. The Maple Tree Guild fortifies their base. Kuromu and the others start preparing ambushes for any attackers from other guilds who are trying to steal their orbs, while Sally and Kanade set out to hunt for some more orbs. As for Maple, Yui, and Mei, they stay behind at the base in order to take care of the final line of defense. Things get rowdy pretty fast as a significant number of small guilds are instantly destroyed because of the 5 death penalty. The medium-sized guilds survive this initial confrontation, but Sally uses her massive IQ to make them turn on each other as she enjoys the soils of war. The Maple Tree Guild was coming out strong right from the start, but then Frederica ambushes Sally and quickly surrounds her with their forces. Maple leaves the base in Mei and Yui's care while she herself goes to Sally's aid. Little did they know this was all part of their plan. Once Maple leaves the base, Dread comes to attack. It was tough, but he manages to defeat Mei and Yui, though unfortunately he couldn't get his hands on any of the orbs because Maple had already returned. She uses the chaotic strength of her monster form to deal some major damage to their forces. Sally's health is in a critical state, which is why she's resting at the base. However, Maple, Mei, and Yui decide to launch a full-scale assault on the nearby guilds. Maple is in her monster form and they raid guild after guild, instilling fear and panic within their ranks, all the while increasing their overall orbs quantity by a hefty number. I don't know about you, but it would be pretty terrifying if a world boss just showed up on my doorstep. It's so sudden and chaotic that some players wonder if it's a glitch or an error that caused this rampaging monster to let loose. No, it's just our MC Maple. Instead of staying behind to protect their guild, they decide to destroy everyone else instead, so that no other guild can gain points from them. The number of players that were dying left and right was accelerating at an insane pace. The Kingdom of Flame Emperor was using a similar approach and taking out numerous guilds left and right. Maple, Mei, and Yui then raid the Kingdom of Flame Emperor and aggressively bypass all their traps until it's a full-on confrontation with the Guildmaster Me, as well as 2 other strong players named Marcus and Misery. Me and her fellow members try to use a barrage of all sorts of attacks to somehow push Maple out of the attack range. This creates an opportunity for me to use her skill and trap Maple in a prison made of flames that keeps damaging you continuously. However, Maple uses her machine god skills and defeats both Marcus and Misery. Me tries to use a self-destruct spell to defeat Maple, but also fails. By this point, pretty much all the other guilds are destroyed, and all that's left is the final confrontation with the Order of the Holy Swords. Pain, Dread, Frederica, and Drag all confront Maple. It's an epic fight where Pain deals Maple some major damage, almost defeating her to say the least. But just when she was at minimal health, she uses the Uno reverse card and directs the damage Pain had inflicted on her right back to him. Pain wasn't a top player for nothing. He still manages to withstand this counter. However, when Maple uses her atrocity form, she defeats all of the holy swords just like that. It was still the third day, and yet the event was already entering its final phase. Maple uses her atrocity form, Sally and Kanade use their own broken skills, and the few guilds that were still present are also taken out. Flame Emperors follow suit. The event ends right on the third day because all of their guilds were already destroyed. When the rankings were announced, the Maple Tree is ranked 3rd, the Flame Emperors are ranked 2nd, and the Holy Swords are ranked 1st. Yet again. Maple was the center of it all, a monster, an anomaly, and if it was only about strength and aggressiveness, the Maple Tree Guild was by far the strongest, though of course what decided the winner was the highest number of orbs. The Maple Tree had been destroying other guilds together with their orbs, which is why they didn't have as many orbs as Holy Swords and Flame Emperors. The administrators are frustrated at Maple how her antics reduced the time to just 3 days, and how she shamelessly destroyed everyone else instead of going for the orbs, which was the main goal. But they decide to let her be. Her prestige is bringing in more players to the game after all. Following this event, there's a nice wholesome party where Maple also invites the members of the Kingdom of Flame Emperor and the Order of the Holy Swords for a celebration. Together, they watch the highlights of the event, and there's Maple wreaking havoc everywhere. Despite being a noob, she mastered the art of casually trolling other players, even the game administrators. And that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.